We thought we tried different settings, so we designed this from the piano room and all along those lines. So we'll see how this all goes. But just in general, there is all kinds of things happening in the world. And actually, matter of fact, Europe is voting, and apparently there is a populist wave that is surging. So some people are saying that there's a definite populist wave that is going on, but it looks like the left, and I know that the left just won in Mexico, but apparently they are winning the most Dutch seats in the EU elections in a setback to Wilders. So the Dutch nationalist Wilders is making big gains on the EU elections, but apparently maybe the left is making some gains as well. At least that's what the exit polls are showing. So apparently there is a populist wave surge. So definitely that's in the world's biggest multicultural vote. So the EU is having votes, and of course we're going to have our votes later on, and we still got trials going on. So I don't know what Nick's got to say about these trials and everything, but apparently there's a trial going on involving the Biden family. So I do know that that's going on, and I think that one of the in-laws is supposed to be testifying, so that ought to be interesting to see what folks have to say about that, because apparently that is going on and all in that space. So definitely got a lot of folks that are concerned about that trial that is taking place as well. And earlier we were talking about D-Day and all in that space. So definitely it'll be interesting what goes on that space. But in the Hunter Biden gun trial, Haley Biden is a key witness. So definitely that is something going on. So definitely the prosecutors are using his memoir as evidence, and Biden's campaign 2020 narrative about Hunter's laptop collapses after Biden's Department of Justice enters into trial evidence. So there's a lot of conversations about that going on as well. So definitely we're seeing a lot of things going on in that. But on the other end of the spectrum, Trump ally Steve Bannon must surrender to the prison by July 1st to start his contempt sentence. So, you know, he was a major player, and it looks like he's going to have to go in there and possibly serve some prison time starting on July 1st, which is actually Canadian Independence Day, if I remember correctly, and all along those lines. So definitely these trials are still going on. People are definitely paying attention to them and seeing what's going on in that regards. So we got elections all over the world, including some in Africa, some in Asia. A lot of people are paying attention to the Indian elections and all in that space. So, and of course, people are paying attention to D-Day. And of course, we still got people that are talking about the attack that took place there in Israel. And apparently a Ukrainian Russian citizen was arrested after an explosion at a hotel in France. So this is something else that is going on. So a Russian Ukrainian man was arrested following an explosion near Paris in a suspected terrorism conspiracy. So yes, an ex-Russian soldier accused of planning a France terror attack, but the France's intel agency detains the Ukrainian Russian man suspected of planning the violent act after he injured himself in the explosion. So maybe he didn't know how to handle the explosions that he was having and all in that space. So definitely that's something else on the political landscape. And Rishi Sunak's 2,000 pound labor tax claim is being criticized by stats watchdogs. So it looks like there are some claims that are going on there about a tax rise, and it looks like he's just been fact checked by his government as well. So like I said, there's all these political conversations going on and all these political things that are happening and all in that regards. But we got people here that can talk about these things. So I've got Kim Calhoun with me. I've got Nick Palveda coming at us from Tampa. We've also got Rick Rosner, and we've got definitely Sasha Starr as well. So that was just a couple of the things that I saw in the news. And like I said, we get rid of this background because unlike Nick, I sometimes like having the regular background, but yeah, it was fun to go there and see what it looked like with the piano room and all in that space. But when I get off and get back to our regular settings, what is y'all's thoughts about some of those news items that I brought up because apparently their Hunter trial is going on, and some people are paying attention to that almost as much as they were paying attention to the Trump trial. So, any thoughts about this Hunter Biden trial, or is it just a bunch of noise? So, I'll start off with Sasha. I get ready to get off just briefly, but any take on the Hunter trial?
Waste of time, Mark. Waste of time and a bunch of noise. First of all, it shouldn't be in the press. It's not newsworthy. It doesn't deal with Joe Biden. It deals with his son. It's kind of a ticky-tack crime to begin with. It shouldn't even been litigated. I don't even want to see it. It doesn't move the country forward. And the news media should be censored for not censoring that garbage. There's nothing good that can come out of that. Yeah, Rick, what's your thoughts?
The question you can ask is, whose minds will it change? It won't change any votes one way or the other.
Yeah, but it's not newsworthy. What I'm saying, Rick, it is not newsworthy. In other words, it is not in the public interest. Who gives a rat's rear that he signed something because he thought he wasn't an alcoholic, and we're going to do a big federal crime, and again, this government will spend millions of dollars, literally, on legal fees to prosecute something that shouldn't even be prosecuted. So, not only that, the media is going to cover it.
In general, it's not a crime that leads to people being sentenced. It's a crime it's a charge that's used to get people into rehab.
There you go. Right, but again, it shouldn't even be a crime. Some states have what they call mental health courts for things like that. But this is, and it shouldn't be newsworthy. We have real problems in the United States. Hunter Biden isn't one of them.
Well, you can argue
it's being used as a counterattack to Trump by the Trump lovers. But here's my problem with this whole Hunter Biden case is it's all about the fact he checked a box saying that he was not addicted to drugs. Now, most people who understand mental health issues and addiction know people who are addicted don't admit they're addicted. They don't know. They don't realize it. Even if they've been told by a counselor and they've been going but they will not admit that they're alcoholics. They will not admit that they're addicted to drugs or addicted to whatever. So if it were my client, that would be the first thing I would do is bring a mental health doctor in to say, well, you know what? People who have addictions don't know they have addictions. So why is that box even there? It'd be one thing if you were committed with addictions and set free, then yes, you would have to check that box. But he probably didn't know he had an addiction. That's what I would argue.
And all good Republicans should be against this because this is government intrusion.
Oh, no, they're loving it. They're loving it.
And it's I got you form that the federal government has you sign. So
oh my God, I've been listening to 106 today just to hear about what they're talking about. And so, that's all Republican right-wing idiots. But
no, they should be against it completely. If they were
so they talked about the Biden trial as if they talked about Hunter Biden's trial as if it were Joe Biden. Like, because he did this, Joe should leave the presidency, and I'm like,
we could consider it part of the parade of BS that we're just going to get hammered with until the election and maybe after the election. Today, Biden's over in Normandy, commemorating D-Day. Lunatics on the right showed a picture of Biden squatting down and said, look, he's pooping his pants. And really what it was a clip of he was squatting because he was sitting down, but they cut the clip off and maybe ran it in reverse. So it looked like he was squatting for a second and then So like just crazy, ridiculous bullshit.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of it.
You can't believe anything you see or hear today anyway.
Right.
So, I'm sitting there listening to these idiots on 106, and I'm like, well, like Sean Hannity, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Cannot any one of you just talk about something else other than what you're trying to make Joe Biden look bad. This is Hunter Biden. This should not have anything to do with Joe. But anytime I talk to anyone who is a Trump Orange Party fan, and you bring up something that Trump did, they go, well, Hunter Biden, da 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 da. And I'm like, but Hunter Biden isn't Joe. Hunter, that's not Joe's crime.
Joe Biden announced today that he's not going to pardon his son if he's going to be convicted. Okay.
Yeah,
that's a political move, but just
that's a political move. But let me tell you something. He should not be convicted. This person has serious mental problems. He's a serious alcoholic. What's showing is how bad this country is. This is how this country treats people.
Were his third or fourth offense, like most of the criminals in our court system who have a recidivism sheet this long, I could understand it being a crime. But this is not his. This is his first that I'm aware of, but this is not his second or third time over this situation. So I don't think it's a crime just to be carrying a gun.
And I think he only had the gun for 11 days before his wife threw it in a dumpster. But I think Hunter Biden's been clean now for years. I mean, you're always a drug addict or whatever, but you can be like, in recovery for years. I don't. One thing I wonder about is, like, Hunter Biden is a good-looking guy, and I wonder if that affects people's reactions to him at all.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure people are just like everything else. Your physical appearance is a big factor in what people's, how they characterize you. And, I think that has a lot to do with it. But I just think, like Nick said, all of this is just a political circus scam. It's not his second or third offense like most criminals. I don't think he should be tried as a criminal, but the Republican Orange Trump Party, they want this to be a crime so that they can say that this is Joe Biden's crime. And that's all they talk about. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with Joe.
Who got injured? Who got injured on this crime? Who got hurt?
Nobody. That's what I'm saying. Nobody got hurt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All good Republicans should be against this government intrusion.
They're for it. They are for it.
They really want to have the government micromanage everything they say and do.
Unless it's Trump. Everything's rigged unless they win.
Yeah, it's all rigged. But speaking of things being rigged, apparently there is a major peace summit that's going on. We were talking about Ukraine earlier, and it looks like that will be taking place. And some people are saying that it could be a game changer. It'll be interesting to see what takes place. I know that there'll be definitely efforts to continue the efforts to prosecute and eventually arrest Putin and all along those lines. But apparently instead of Biden going, he's sending Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris will be the one attending from the U.S. to the peace conference and all along those lines. So Sasha, what's your take on this peace summit? Will there be peace after the peace summit? And what is it supposed to be accomplished? I think it's like 100. It's supposed to be, 80 countries I think that are there, or a vast amount of countries that are taking place and all along those lines. But what is your take on this peace conference, and what will be the goal and the accomplishment of said peace conference?
It's old saying, this peace conference plus 75 cents will buy you a cup of coffee. Okay, that's all what I can say about this peace conference. It's not going to be in a conference. It will be on the battlefield where Ukraine will humiliate Russia once it will receive F-16s and will start attack and will cut off the Crimea. And once Crimea will be taken over, that is the end of Putin and his regime. And it's about time. The Russia is enemy of all world. All Second World War started on September 1st because of Russia, or Soviet Union at the time, had a pact with Germany. And without that, there would not be Second World War. And millions of people, including 6 million Jews, would not be killed. And this is just history repeats itself. So finally, the Soviet Union ceased to exist in December of 1991. And now it's time for Putin Russia cease to exist and just be, it will be consist of 8 independent states, anywhere from Leningrad area, the Moscow area, St. Catherine's, St. Petersburg, Yekaterinburg, and Krasnodar. There are 6 regions, maybe 8, that Russia will be consist of in the near future.
So we talk about the 6 million Jews a lot, and that's important that everybody knows about that, but we should add the millions more. So in addition to 6 million Jews murdered by Hitler, there were another 5 million people he considered his enemies or undesirables, gay people, Polish prisoners of war, mentally handicapped people, and Hitler, if he hadn't, by starting World War II in Europe, led to the deaths of 30 million people. And then Stalin killed 40 million of his own people.
Yeah, and the thing is, that's what people should not underestimate. Russia is prone to do stuff like that. Killing 40 million people are cannon fodder as far as they're concerned over there. And so they kill indiscriminately. In the United States, and this is an issue that should be discussed, forget Hunter Biden, stupid media, discuss Russia and what we're going to do about it. Sending airplanes, F-16s over and F-35s, over to Ukraine is very important. And also developing our Star Wars defense is very important, similar to what the Patriot missile defense showed what they were able to do in Israel. We need to have the same thing over here, but we need to have a discussion every day about building our space war defense similar to the Iron Dome that Israel have, and then annihilating these idiot Russians with our F-35s. And if we have to, wipe them off the map. I mean, but don't let Putin become the world dictator, please.
So this isn't the first time that Russia has slaughtered Ukrainians. Russia set up a famine in the 1920s. In 1921, an estimated 3.9 million Ukrainians starved to death.
1931. Yeah.
Hey, this is a question for both of y'all.
He lived in Ukraine, so he went through that.
Okay, I'm sorry. They set up I didn't know they set up numerous famines. There were famines as early as 1921, and then under Stalin, I think Stalin comes in 1924, and he sets up what Sasha's talking about, the famine of 1931.
Yeah, but see, this, Rick, is important. This is what the news should be reporting. Hunter Biden signing a piece of paper is not important. What is important is Russia invading Ukraine, and what's very important is Russia wagging the nuclear weapons and us sitting around with our hands on our butts, not doing anything about it. When we have the technology to develop a Star Wars defense, they'll just knock Russia out the gate. They're a tiny little stupid country.
I don't think we need to develop it. I think we just need to deploy it. I think it's already developed. I just think we need to execute and deploy, or deploy and execute, however you want to use those words. I think the other thing that's very big on the political ballots right now is, that they want to take away from women access to birth control and contraceptives and protection. And I think that this is very wrong. I mean, excuse me, guys, but they will issue you and give you free blue pills and Viagra to give you a rise to the occasion, but they won't give women the means to protect themselves. And I have a problem with this. I just
they won't give
equal rights.
They won't have contraceptives. Even Spain, as Catholic as they are, they acquiesce to contraceptives for women and birth control and abortion. They did everything, and they're extremely conservative. What are you telling me?
I have no idea where all of this came from, unless it's just a political nonsense.
It's political.
But it's
an opportunity to it's an opportunity to play to the evangelicals and things along those lines. So it's an attempt to play
Well, I
to
think
them,
it's
to
just an
play
attempt to
to
stir the
appeal
pot.
to that and that block and everything. So you got a
I
number of
think it's
people
an
that
attempt to stir the pot. I really do. I think it's to confuse and not stay on the issues that we need to address and be a part of. I think that this is to confuse the whole situation and not let us talk about the things that we really need to be talking about. And, that is, how to get our debt under control, maybe, control the border a little bit better. They said that they implemented that yesterday.
they
So,
implemented
but I mean, here we are with all of these other problems, and like you said, that we're talking about Hunter Biden. That needs to even be here. And then, now we're talking about women can't have access to birth control and contraceptives and protection. So, I mean, what's wrong with this picture? What happened to
the big news
people?
stories that
I mean,
everybody's talking about, which I know Nick loves because
Republicans, come
I
on.
didn't bring it up, but the big news stories that everybody's talking about, I don't care if they're in Canada where Sasha is or in the West Coast, but everybody, you can go step outside. They are talking about this lovely heat wave that we're in the middle of. So that's generally what the news story starts off with, is how hot it is. And there's no doubt that it's hot, and it's very hot. But that's where a lot of people are going with their news stories, worried about the heat as if we can have any control over that and all of those lines.
Mark, I'm not going to discuss a heat issue. I'm telling you right there. It's not going to happen. But I want to tell you something interesting. Yesterday, I had a dentist appointment. And there was nothing serious cleaning, but there was a television set. And to make people calmer, they're running, I do not know what station is that. But what's interesting is that there was a all-women audience and three lead women. They were discussing an issue if women can have sex as often as possible. Should she or shouldn't she? And if not, why? And if yes, why? And so on. And it was such an interesting program. And I thought that why are we not discussing that in our show? Because
it has been discussed on several shows, because actually it was mentioned on one of the online dinner parties, and it was mentioned on several other shows. So Pod TV has had several discussions about that, including Mariana Alda, who is 70 years old or
so
somewhere
what's
in
the
that
right
age.
answer to that question?
Well, a lot of times women, when they get older, they find them they are more sexually active because they are not as worried about having babies and they're not as concerned about having babies. So they sometimes find themselves being more sexually active during their times of getting older. And there are some older women that enjoy being more sexually active.
Maybe Republicans should think about that when they're cutting off our birth control. Then we say, no, we're cutting you off.
There's the Heritage Foundation.
That's right.
The Heritage Foundation is a fairly well-respected conservative think tank. Mm-hmm. But there are people at the Heritage Foundation who think that sex needs to be returned to its serious purpose. The people there are people on the conservative side who say you should not be having sex unless there's a chance that a pregnancy results from it.
Even though
if you have a sex and there is no pregnancy, are you going to be punished for that?
I don't know, but wasn't
that kind of the theme of The Handmaid's Tale, was that people would get punished if they didn't have babies? But I don't have the statistic in front of me. You can look it up, Rick. But the amount of sexual encounters versus the amount of births, it is actually a miracle that all of us are born, because even though there is a great deal of birth rates, there's also much sex that is going on that does not lead to the birth and all along those lines. So does that mean that whether it is non-conception sex, or whether it is sex that is involving non-conception of any sort, I mean, we go down the whole masturbation conversation and everything, that all of that would be punished? Because that's kind of the thing.
Well, these people we don't want people in our bedrooms. Ted Cruz once came out in favor of a Texas bill that limited the number of dildos you can have to 5. You can have 3 or 4. You can't have 6. And it's crazy, just the interference.
Well, you know what is the solution? Solution is, for example, each person, let's say a male is allowed to have sex, say 5 times a month, Plus, he can masturbate maybe another 6 times. And if there is no pregnancy, then for 3 months he is not allowed to have any sex, any masturbation, nothing. Would that be fair?
No,
No,
I would have spent most of my life in trouble. Just on the masturbation, not the sex side. I wasn't that lucky, but
he'd probably be in jail or under the jail if that was the case. But as you were just saying, a lot of people are trying to spend too much time in things that are none of their business, because we got a number of people even in the area here that are trying to govern things in that sense, because we got a lot of people that we're trying to regulate. There are still laws, and I don't know if Kim's looked at the laws, but there are still laws in North Carolina and in other parts of the country where it is illegal to do certain actions that people love doing with their significant others. But technically speaking, y'all can figure out what I'm talking about. It is technically illegal and all along those lines. And it is still on the books of many states, and it is still in the laws legislatures.
Actually, what's interesting is yesterday on my appointment that this hygienist, a girl, she was also watching this program while she was cleaning my teeth, and she said that if indeed all women will want to have and will have sex as often as possible, there will be not enough males. I mean, they will fight for each normal male to attract him and to have sex with. And I think it's a very right observation, because these days males are preoccupied with video games and with all kinds of things, it's politics and whatever. So I think it will be a shortage of males,
No, a shortage of couples that the same people who want to get rid of abortion and get rid of birth control are worried that Americans aren't making enough babies and that brown people from the rest of the world are going to overwhelm us. But when you think about it, when you see it in action, all this push against birth control, against abortion, actually suppresses sexual activity and babies, where we have enough ways to be entertained now that a lot of people, younger people, are saying the hell with coupling up and doing marriage and children, that I can entertain myself fully without being part of a couple and having sex with other people. So
I mean, part of this, it even comes back to the politics side of things, because a lot of people are trying to figure out where the youth will be voting in terms of the election and all along those lines. And yes, they are interested in certain issues, whether that's Israel and Palestine, whether that's a number of other issues that they care about, including some of these that we're talking about now and everything. But I just recently came back from a late lunch and everything. I was talking to the young lady that graduated in 2020, and she is still frustrated over the fact that she did not have a graduation because of the pandemic and all along those lines. So she was working at her cousin's, or I guess that would be her aunt's restaurant, because she's a manager there and everything. But I mean, that's something that the young people are concerned about, and they're concerned about their mental health. I know that I think you, Kim, have said that you live not that far from a school, and I know that Nick has been near a school as well. And there's a number of these young people that are very much depressed and are glued to their TVs and everything, and they are going to be, in some cases, a major voting bloc, and we don't know which way they're going to go, because some of these people are still pissed over what happened to them back in 2020 and what they lost and everything. So I just want
to Mark, people who are even more pissed today, who are homeless people. Why not to talk about homeless people?
Are voting. They're not voting. And what was that? What was the statistic you said, Rick, about older people having all the money? What's that number again?
People 45 and older have 94% of the privately held assets in America.
45 or older, 94%. By the way, that's a very important statistic. Well, young people in the United States are basically screwed financially. They're screwed because they have huge student debt. The jobs that they get can't pay the bloody rent, and economically they're going south.
Nick, so how do you expect these people to have babies? You know how much costs to have a baby in the United States or in Canada? We are talking about $300,000 or more. So how people can afford to have babies?
They can't. My son I have 3 grandkids, but he has a great job. He graduated from Duke University, got his master's in engineering. He had a PhD. He was in the PhD program there, got a great job with SAS. But unless you're in that high echelon area, and he's just turned 40, but he's had the job for quite some time, frankly, he can't afford kids. Most people aren't that lucky. He has no student debt because we made sure that didn't happen. He went to Georgia Tech on the Hope Scholarship and Duke on a full scholarship because I showed him how to gaff the SAT, not the SATs, the GREs. I said, here's what you do if you want to score a high 1500. And I think he scored like 1585 on the GREs.
Nice.
But what was your
strategy? What was your strategy?
Okay, the strategy is real simple. It's like a chess strategy, Rick. It's like IQ strategy. You work the game. In other words, all these good chess players don't wake up one morning, oh, I'm a master, I'm a grandmaster. They work their butts off.
Then I agree. The way to beat those tests is to take dozens and dozens of practice tests.
Exactly. That's what I said. I said you eat, live, and sleep that for a year, and then you take the test. Okay. So I said,
I want to tell you something interesting. I just figured out.
You do just like chess or anything else. You got to work the game, and don't listen to your advisors because they're idiots who say, "Well, you should just walk in on your natural abilities and take the GRE."
No, it's like.
It's like I'm going to walk into a chess tournament on my natural ability and beat Magnus Carlsen.
Okay, Nick, here is a choice. Let's say a young couple, as they have a choice. Either that one of them will go to university, get $250,000 debt, and then they will try to find their way out, or they can get a debt of $250,000 that would allow them to have a kid, at least one child.
Yeah.
But that debt is dischargeable in case of bankruptcy, unlike student's loan. So you'd rather take $250,000, have a kid, declare bankruptcy, and then you can go on with your life, and you already have a baby.
The student loans are an atrocity. And I'll tell you, I was 12 years adjunct professor at Graduate Tax Program at Northeastern University. So I calculated my classroom hours, not my total hours, my classroom hours. I was being paid $2,000 an hour to teach a class. Okay. Now, remember, it's a private school. They charge out rear for the tuition. They were charging like $60,000 to get a master's degree in taxation at Northeastern. And a lot of people hear, oh, the teachers don't make that much. Well, it depends on what school you teach and what you're teaching and who you are. But some of these teachers, per classroom time, they'll make $2,000 an hour. And so don't cry for them, Sasha. And you know what they'll do? They'll do side gigs. I wonder if Northeastern's calling me right now. They're trying to tell me to teach. They're trying to tell me.
It depends on the teacher. Like New Mexico, Arkansas, teachers might be making like, I don't know, $4,000 a month, $5,000 a month.
But it depends if you're teaching at like a high school.
That's what I know, at a high school.
You're getting paid nothing. But my argument against Jatovi was, they're getting paid nothing, but they're teaching nothing that's worthwhile anyway. And I'm really disappointed with the Chapel Hill school system because when I listen to my grandkids, I cry when I listen to what they're teaching them, and they're teaching them nothing useful at all. And the thing is, they're saying, oh, we're Chapel Hill. So what? It doesn't matter. You're not going to be able to compete against the Indians, the Chinese, the world economy with what you're learning. And to give a teacher a raise to teach Latin is just a waste of money. And or art, or music. Sorry, Sasha, or even chess. Okay, do that on your own dime, buddy. Okay, not to say my wife loves music. Fine, we pay and she's got a private tutor. That's fine, but that's on her own dime.
Well, you're lucky if your school has art or music. Like some Republican states, like Oklahoma, cut back education funds.
Most of the states have gotten rid of
They couldn't even open schools 5 days a week. They went to 4 days a week because they didn't have the money for 5.
Right, and they're teaching the wrong things. There was a book written. I think it was like The Jobs of the Future, and the thing is, it's not. I hate to say it, it's not music, it's not art. It's unfortunately the hard sciences and things that are hard for people to learn, and that's just the way it is. And real estate should be taught in every school. Real estate investing. Because everybody in the United States, if you're going to have any money at all, will be investing in real estate at some point in time, whether it's timeshares, which suck, which Kim, we have a program on the network that shows
Yes,
how
do not ever get involved with a timeshare.
don't ever get involved with a timeshare. But also, we need to have programs on mortgages, your credit score,
Real estate,
whether you should rent or you should buy, whether it's a good real estate deal or bad real estate deal.
loans,
You know, I'm screwing around. I've bought
lending.
and sold literally, I bought and sold millions of dollars of real estate over the last 40 years. And last couple of years, I made like $250,000 buying and selling real
There's
estate.
been a couple of shows that have actually touched on real estate on Pod TV and even real estate
Yeah, we gotta
sales.
really do
So
that.
we've definitely had some shows that have dealt with that topic and everything, but there have been shows that have dealt with music and even in the past AI, because AI is one of those, you might call it a soft one and everything. But I would argue that there are some benefits if you want to have them, because I know some people that have actually made a decent living off of being archaeologists and sociologists and even psychologists, which you say are not worth studying and everything. So I do know that there are people that have made a good living off of those fields and have actually done well in those fields, maybe even going on trips to Peru and some of the archaeological places that exist around the world and everything, including Greece. So definitely there have been some people that have made money in these fields.
A weird new career, at least according to Twitter, where I've seen a lot of ads for this, is being somebody who can talk to AI, who can.
Well, you know, when you're talking about AI. If you're buying a car, you go to Cars Guru. The AI will tell you whether the car is a good deal or a bad deal. They use metrics to do that. You could do the same thing in real estate, like Zillow, Redfin, Motivo, but guess what? They don't do that. But they could actually bring in the metrics, and I think they will someday, Rick, that you go to Zillow and you look to buy a home, and they'll say, this is a bad deal.
No, there's some programs like that exist even to this day. So there are different programs that will give you different things along those lines. But, you know, one of the things you harp against oftentimes is internet for all, but you harp also against the EVs and everything. But there was some major money that was just recently made. I think it was several million that came to Durham, North Carolina, because they're getting ready to build some EV charging stations. So they're actually getting ready to be an economic boom here in Durham, North Carolina, because they're getting to build a bunch of EV charging stations that they would then spread around the country, that I know you are a opponent of, Nick.
No, you be very careful, because Jatovia likes to put words in people's mouth, and it really makes a lot of people upset. But just, you got to be careful what people said. I'm against the government paying for it. If private industry wants to pay for it, charging stations, I have a problem with that. So Tesla can pay for it. Vin can pay for it, which is a big Vietnamese EV group. I don't mind private industry paying for charging stations. It is not the purview of the government to subsidize Tesla. I'm sorry. And
but
why
I want to say that Durham gave Kim Power some money in order to help bring the charging station here. So Kim Power is the charging stations that bring the company, but I'm sure that they're getting some sort of tax cuts and everything in order to do the building.
See that
we have on this network, we have an entire show devoted to how the U.S. is spending beyond its means and how we're in trouble. That we've got this $34 trillion debt. And so we spent a lot of time talking about it. And I believe, and I think you guys all kind of secretly believe, that we will never get our act together and get rid of that debt. Because we could, by reasonable policies and reasonable politicians and some sacrifices, cut down the debt and help the country immensely. But I think we're not going to have, looking at the politicians we have now, not going to happen. And I think that one way to mitigate the effects of this huge debt is for us to own the future, for us to get hunker down. Again, it requires Americans to not be lazy, but own the technology of the future, for the U.S. to be the world's robot maker, to be the world, whatever whatever tech we need to save low-lying cities from rising oceans, it comes out of the U.S. We should have all the best tech, but I'm not sure we can even do that. I think, we're up against China and India again.
Yeah, and China and India are going to be our competitors for a long, long time. What we can do is we can eliminate the deficit, which is the annual increase on the national debt. The debt, it's going to be tough because we've built ourselves so deeply into a hole that to drive down the debt's going to be hard. But I've already looked at the numbers, and anybody can look at it, the 2025 budget. There is plenty of fat in that budget that if you cut that fat out, you could actually balance it. And the last person did it was Bill Clinton. Before that, it was Richard M. Nixon. You can balance the budget. What it does, it sends a message to the American public and the world that we're going to get our finances in order. But guess what? That's not what Joe Biden submitted. He submitted a budget that was 1.7 trillion more in debt, with the biggest budget item being interest on the national debt. And that is a crime. I mean, you know, if Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to put out a crime, there's a crime. She should cry on that, because that affects everybody. And the media, oh, they're asleep at the wheel. I honestly think most of the people in the media can't read a bloody financial statement. I really do.
That's probably true. But since Clinton, every president,
Clinton, yeah.
Bush takes us to
They
this.
all screwed up.
Takes us to this war in Iraq. Cost $1 trillion. Didn't need to do that. And then Obama spends about $8 trillion to get us out of the mortgage collapse, recession.
Right. Yeah, 2008. So, but when you look at it, it's always an excuse, and it's always.
But what I'm saying is, every president since Clinton,
I know,
has added trillions to the deficit.
See, here's an opportunity. Biden has an opportunity to balance the budget. I looked at all the fat inside that 2025 budget. He could submit it and been a real hero to me and a lot of Americans. All he had to do is submit a balanced budget. And if not, he could have demonstrated he can balance it in 4 years, which he can. The reduction for the stupid, wasteful spending per administrative agency is about 9%.
Well, do you see any budget hawks in the Biden administration? Now, Trump.
No, they can't find a dollar they can't spend. In other words, they're spendthrifts. You know, they're horrible. You know, that's the reason I gave up my Democratic ticket. I gave my Republican ticket.
Nick, hold on a second. You can't say that without just mentioning that.
I gave my Democratic ticket
when talking about the Republicans.
They're going to reelect
the Trump administration, and I think it was one of the major anchors. I forgot which lady it was, but she was supposed to be having a meeting with Trump. Trump was supposed to be giving her his budget and all along those lines, and his medical plan. It was supposed to be his medical plan and everything. And the aide, I forget which one it was, but she came and gave her all this information, and there was no plan within it. It was a bunch of fluff and a bunch of information.
Leslie Stahl. He was interviewed by Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes, and he brought her
That's what I'm thinking about, exactly.
And he goes, here's my medical plan. And then somebody happened, I don't think it happened on camera, but somebody opened it up, and it was, just blank pages.
Oh, really? Well, the thing is,
Nick, I have a question to you. Nick, I have a question. If Trump will become a president, do you think that he will weaponize his new Department of Justice?
Absolutely.
And will go actively after Biden for his withdrawal from Afghanistan, from his not balanced budget, for all the crimes that he's done, and they will put him in jail in no time. Because yesterday I saw the programs that some people like Andrew McCabe, who was official in the Trump administration in Department of Justice, he was saying that he is scared personally for his life if Trump will be president, and he is planning to get out of country once the election will be over. And it's not only him, it's James Comey, it's several people. They will have to run out of the United States, and probably Biden just as well.
No, there's still people that might be leaving. Right. But by the way,
the Judicial Department.
Speaking of that, just really quickly, Nick. Speaking of that really quickly, one of the things I saw earlier today, and I don't know what y'all think about this, but apparently there is a short list now of potential Trump vice presidents, because he's got to try to come up with that. At the same time, he was dealing with the sentencing, and apparently he's asking for their medical records, because they include people like J.D. Vance, they include people like Tim Scott, they include Burgum from North Dakota. There was about 6 or 7, but apparently he has asked to see their medical records so he can narrow down who he's going to pick. But I know that this is something I saw earlier, where he's looking at them checking out their medical records to make sure that they will be fit for the office. Should he have to step down, or should he get convicted, or did they have to take over the office? But it was several people, and like I said, I know J.D. Vance was one, Tim Scott was one. The one some people may even think he would go for was the former, I think he was one of the Surgeon Generals, Ben Carson. So Ben Carson was on that list as well. So, Rick, your hands was up.
So, I mean, it's a bunch of kiss asses. He isn't like, not Nikki Haley, and it doesn't seem like people calculated to expand his electoral footprint. It's just people who've kissed his ass. So the threat of Trump's second term, it's a balance between what he wants to do, which is a lot of, bad stuff, versus his ability to do it, which is limited because he's dumb and he appoints dumb people. So, like smart people go to work for him, like Rex Tillerson, the CEO of Exxon, was his Secretary of State. That guy knows, that guy understands.
He was chairman of ExxonMobil. Yeah.
Right. But he was there for what, like 9 months? And then he left and he said, I can't work for an effing idiot.
Right. And you know what? This is the sad part about the Donald. He hires really bad lawyers. Like I said, Michael Cohen graduated from the worst law school in America. I mean, the Thomas Cooley School of Law is like ranked dead bottom on any U.S. News World Report. Why would you hire Michael Cohen if you're a billionaire? Nobody would, except Donald Trump. Then he gets his defense attorney, and it was Shaquille that actually gave the right defense. But this guy, Todd Blanche, went to the Brooklyn Law School. Let me tell you, if you're in New York, that is not the law school you go to. You go to NYU, you go to Columbia. It's only if you're a horrible student and your LSAT scores aren't very good, then you'll go to the Brooklyn Law School. That's who he hired. And I'm going like, dude, there are a lot of good lawyers out there, really, really sharp people, and you're hiring from the bottom of the stack. And if this is how he administers, you shouldn't vote for him just because of who he hires.
So
he hires
to compare it to Nazi Germany, Hitler, until he went crazy, was a smart guy. And I believe he tended to hire smart people. They were monsters and freaks, Goebbels, but they were highly sophisticated, smart people, some of the first people in the world to really understand PR, advertising and public relations. And you can ask, how did the Jews get fooled into getting on the trains and being shipped off to their deaths? It's because the whole deal was arranged by smart people. So what we can hope for is that, if we're in a situation where Trump kind of likes Hitler, we can hope that Trump is too stupid and the people around him are too stupid to do what Hitler and his people did.
I think that's where you're going to see, because one trust officer at U.S. Trust told me a long time ago, people like to associate with people like themselves, and Trump is dumb, so he associates with dumb people. I mean, if he was smart, he would not have those people around. He would
that. Remember why he fired Jim Comey?
Or something like that.
Remember Jim Comey, why he fired him? Because he was taller than Trump.
He was taller than Trump, right? In other words, Jim Comer was a big guy. He was like 6'8". Trump cannot stand people that are better than him. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are in the United States, and they're really, really good, but you won't see them around the Trump circles.
He needs to fire his kid. His kid is 6'7" or 6'8".
Yeah, his kid's 6'7", 6'8", but it's his kid, so he's all happy with it. But we don't have a real choice in the United States of America this year, and so I'm going to be in Barcelona, baby, hanging out in Spain, broadcasting from there. And
since you're going to Spain and everything, I did have a quick question for you. Do they do a lot of tax hikes and things in Spain and other places? Because I did see that there are people that are very upset in New York because there is an outrage mountain as Hochul, their governor, has pushed a last-minute New York City tax hike to replace their congestion toll. So I don't know if they got that, because I know there's a lot of traffic out in California as well. So is this an issue that might be a voting issue that people be caring about?
What she did was, I don't know much about it, but it seems crazy. New York has a thing called congestion pricing. That if you want to come into the city of Manhattan, which is just a traffic hell, right? Yeah. You need to pay extra to drive in the city when it's at its busiest.
They do that in London too, as you know, on the M1.
It makes a ton of sense. Yeah. You're taxing the people who are creating the problem, who are using the service. She got rid of that and is replacing that with a tax hike on corporations or something. It's super dumb.
Oh, by the way, in Spain they have a wealth tax, which I think the United States should have. But something you were sitting and looking at. Well, you got to keep our station poor, Ken, because otherwise I might be subject to the wealth tax.
Well, the U.S. had a wealth tax, which was inheritance taxes.
When someone died, they had an estate tax, and then the idiot Republicans decided to repeal it, and that's where I lost my job and became a pension attorney. I was handling ultra high net worth people all the way up until 2001. The founder of Dunkin' Donuts was my client, to give you an idea. The president of Bausch & Lomb was my client. The founding family of Coca-Cola, my clients. The president of Kimberly-Clark, my client. And I got fired one day because they go, well, the Republicans are repealing the estate tax. I don't need you anymore. I was out of a job. And I was going, are you serious? They're taking money from.
Speaking of that, because it is a national holiday, because there are national holidays for everything. So tomorrow you need to go down to Florida, get to your local Dunkin' Donuts or your local Krispy Kreme. Because if I remember correctly, tomorrow, June 7th, is National Donut Day. So you should be able to get a free donut from one of your people, and all along those lines.
They have a Krispy Kreme here in Tampa.
I think for some reason it's also Chicken Tenders Day at Hardee's, where you can get 3 chicken tenders either today or tomorrow.
Now, see, that advances American politics more than anything. I mean, that's good stuff that Democrats and Republicans can both agree upon. Good Krispy Kreme donuts and chicken tenders and stuff like that. See, I think this party stuff is all garbage. You should just get rid of both these parties. They're a waste of time, and get people who can actually solve problems and dump the parties, because they've shown they're ineffective. They have no new ideas. They're all hacks. Get rid of.
How would you get rid of the parties when the parties are controlled by the lobbies, and the lobbies are the ones that are backing the parties, and they will continue to back them? So unless you're going to get rid of the lobbies, are you going to get rid of your favorite lobby, the NRA, and some of the other lobbies? So how are we going to get rid of the parties?
One of my favorites, buddy. I mean, I did that for several years with NAFA, 12th largest PAC. I quit because, frankly, it's disgusting. And what was disgusting is all we did as a PAC, which is a political action committee for people who don't know, is that we handed out checks to get senators and congressmen to vote on our issues. And we'd meet with them because we were handing out checks, and we would size them up. I used to go to meetings every month on this, Mark, size up how much money we'd have to give them to basically buy them off. It was the most disgusting system I ever saw. And it's right in front of you. And if you want to see how American politics work, join a political action committee. And then you'll go, wow, what a disgusting, the Citizens United case just corrupted.
Speaking of disgusting, because I was just talking to our guest that'll be on the show that'll be coming in about 8 minutes, and I'll let y'all close out very thing shortly. But for another time, Coco McMillan has got Aaron McCoy on, and Aaron McCoy is a R&B and gospel, and he does various types of music, including jazz. And Sasha, you'll be glad to know that I think he said that in November he's heading back to Dubai, because he's also a member of Who's Bad, and that's like a Michael Jackson tribute band. So I think that this will be like his I've lost track, 6th or 7th, maybe even 8th time going there. So I was asking if he was concerned, because it is in the Middle East and everything, but he said it's November, and he's hoping that things have calmed down by that time and everything, but he will be heading back that way. And it is a place that he regularly goes to, and that will be her featured guest on today. And like I said, he's been on before and everything, so he's heading that way. Then I think she's heading back to Morocco in the not too distant future, but he's heading in that general direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I have bad news for me. I looked for free chicken tenders near me, and there are no Hardee's near me. And then the website gives you their symbol is a star, and the star is crying for you.
Oh dear, right. Well, Krispy Kreme. There should be Krispy Kremes.
Yeah, there's a ton of Krispy Kreme.
Yeah, Krispy Kreme. But the only problem with Krispy Kreme and donuts, they're so bad for you. I mean, that's the only problem. Donuts are not what I would call healthy eating by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, Max ruined you, didn't he? You went up there one time.
I have a strategy. What I do is I eat something bad for me, and then I watch the news, and it gives me irritable bowel, and it runs right through me. I don't absorb any calories.
Oh,
well, that's a beautiful thing. I think that our country in general does not eat healthy. When I go to other countries, it's amazing. I definitely don't put on weight. I usually lose a few pounds, feel a whole lot better. And in our country, it's hard to get a decent meal. It really is. I mean, unless you are conscious about every item you purchase, which now are fresh vegetables and fruits are being injected with vaccines. That's something I heard a senator fighting. Because they don't label it. They don't have to label it right now. I mean, we just can't get any healthy food here. It's just
also when you're in a foreign country, you're walking 10 miles a day. You're not driving. You're in when you're in Barcelona, you're not going to be driving.
I walk 6 to 8 miles a day. I walk 6 to 8 miles a day. In Barcelona, I don't walk. I force myself to walk 1 or 2 miles a day in the United States, but easy when I travel at 6 to 8 miles a day or walking, because all their cities are walkable, where our cities are all spread out and you can't walk them. It's really horrible. And they are in better shape than us. We have a big obesity problem. Now that should be on the news every day, because it is really, really a problem. It's a problem for everybody's health. It's because the foods are all stuck with sugar in them. In other words, it was like Shaquille said from Australia. He goes, I come over here and every time I pick up any food, it's like I can taste the sugar, So basically, unfortunately,
but Nick, it's like I was telling Sasha on his show and everything. While NVIDIA is doing quite well and is doing amazingly well, Scott Galloway and some other people are predicting that the GP1 drugs are going to be the other stock that people will be making a lot of money off, because that is the weight loss drugs that also apparently have other influences as well. So they don't just help with weight loss, but they help with other cravings as well. And he even showed a contrast between the amount of money that he was making off of NVIDIA, and yes, he has made quite a bit off of NVIDIA, and what he's planning to make off of GP1.
The weight loss drugs are great. Yeah,
I'm making money by walking. I'm lazy and I hate walking because, your mind is not preoccupied with anything. You cannot trade stock or play chess or piano or anything like this by walking. So my wife is paying me $100 for each mile I walk.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. I walked today 3 miles, believe it or not. So $300. Wow. It's not a big amount of money, but still, it's every day. I can make every day. It's
pretty good. And you use it. You buy
I'm looking forward now to tomorrow. So tomorrow will be another $300 for me.
But maybe that's something we need is a reward system for exercising. And we don't have that, and that's a good point, Sasha. Is we don't reward the people for eating healthy, because good health just isn't enough. And I find that I feel better when I walk every day. It doesn't matter, right? But when I put in the miles, I feel a lot better. And it's sad to see so many people, just not being healthy anymore. But, the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want us to be healthy either. So,
really?
I mean,
but I agree with Sasha. Walking is freaking boring. We need those glasses that augment your environment, so you can do everything while you're walking, so you can be entertained. And
I like a lot. That my environment's beautiful in the woods, so I try to spend at least 5 miles each day on the weekend in the woods. I put 5, and it's beautiful.
One day I was trying to walk only 2 miles instead of 3. Yeah. So I said, okay, hell, this $100, I'll get 2. And my wife told me, no, you are being penalized for not walking 1 mile by $200, so we are even. Although you did walk 2 miles, but it's not going to change it.
That's one tough person right there. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the warden is after you.
My wife tricked me into going walking with her once or twice, saying, we're going to see all these celebrities, because LA has all these canyons, and each canyon has its celebrities. So she says, we might see Steve Martin, we might see Alex Trebek's
I would go.
No, but we didn't see anybody.
Instead, you saw homeless people getting mugged, and people.
No, we just saw nature, and it got really boring after a while.
Instead, he started running.
Yeah, but
oh my God.
Obesity is a problem in the United States, and it's something that should be discussed by the media. And when I was making my application to Spain, because they force you to take health insurance there, okay, I told them what my height was and my weight was. They're going, "Wait, you are way too overweight. You got to lose weight." I'm serious, and I'm going like, yeah, they take it very seriously over there. They don't like the big fat Americans like me going over there because we put a drain on their health system. Seriously.
Bill Maher, that I mostly don't agree with, has been talking about this since COVID, that we were told to mask up, get vaxxed, 6 feet apart. And he said, well, nobody was telling anybody to lose weight. And obesity is a major risk factor if you catch COVID.
That's true.
And if we're going to have to wrap, it's at the top of the hour. I want to thank everyone for watching us. You know what? As I always say, get healthy and stay wealthy. And we'll see you guys Tuesday. Hopefully we'll have the verdict of what Trump is going to be sentenced for by then. So everyone have a good weekend. We'll see you soon.